Jonathan, thank you very much for the well-edited video submission. The question is, if I can read this, you recommended your friend upgrade from a blue Snowball to an Audio-Technica AT2035 and a UMC22 with a potential further upgrade to the Austrian Audio OC18. Was this advice good or bad? First thing I will say, I think the primary recommendation ought to be invest in some audio treatment. I know Booth Junkie talks about this a lot. I know SoundSpeed talks about this a lot. I don't talk about it enough. Get some sound treatment. That should be the first thing you do. That being said, pretty much anything above the blue Snowball will be an improvement. When I first reviewed it, I think I was pretty favorable because at that point, I had just used a few USB microphones and they had ground loops. So you just had this constant, it sounded terrible. So the fact that it gave you even a remotely clean signal was mind-boggling to me. If you watch my early reviews, by the way, don't. They're terrible. My entire perspective was different. It was much more realistic. It was much more grounded in reality because I hadn't tested out 500 microphones. I didn't have that knowledge. I was just a basic B user. I was somebody who had an SM58, SM57. I recorded demos at home. That's what I did. I had used the SM7B. I had used a few condensers, MXLs. And when I recorded with the MXLs back in the early 2000s, no, mid to late 2000s, I recorded and I clipped like a son of a gun. Don't tell anybody. Because I get so mad at people for clipping. I did it too. What am I talking about? Anyway, so when I reviewed the blue Snowball, I reviewed it favorably because it functions. The competition has caught up and surpassed the blue Snowball at this point, though. So it's very hard to recommend the blue Snowball to anybody. If somebody has it and they can get a sound that they're happy with, more power to them, I would recommend an upgrade. But from the blue Snowball to an AT2035, I think that would be an improvement. It's pretty obvious. When I re-reviewed the AT2020, I know the 2020 and 2035 do sound different. When I re-reviewed the AT2020, I said I wasn't 100% on board with recommending it anymore because it has a lot more competition. However, since I made that video, a lot of the competition has gone up market. Not up market like $500, $1,000, but they've increased their prices. The AT2020 is still sitting there at $100. It's been $100, I'm guessing, since it came out. And it's still at $100. So although it is not my favorite, I think it's a perfectly functional microphone. People can get some great sounding recordings, can get some great quality outcomes from it. Glenn Fricker freaking loves the thing. So I think that's a fine recommendation. Also, with the potential OC18 further down the road, I haven't used the OC18, but it does use the same capsule as the 818. I love the 818, so I think that is a very fair recommendation. It's quite a big upgrade, 9 times the price of the AT2020, so you better be expecting a big improvement over sound. And you're getting such a smooth sound compared to the 2020. The 2020 sounds harsh and shrill and all that compared to the Austrian audio mics. I don't know about their other microphones. I've only used the 818, but the 818 is just smooth and sweet sounding. I love that thing. So I think that's fair, but the primary recommendation, I think, would be get some sound treatment. I have sound treatment right in front of me. That's something that I recently picked up because I wasn't happy with as the amount of reflections I was getting. I did get a big sound treatment block to put on my desk, and it just got to be too inconvenient, so it's sitting behind me, doing nothing. I actually think you can see out into the hallway where it's light. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of this, doesn't it? Doesn't look as creepy when you just realize, oh, it's daytime outside. Well, it's spooky in here, okay?
Hello, Bandrew. My name is Jonathan, and my laptop's decided not to turn into a jet engine this time, which is good because the prices of everything are so high I can't afford a quieter one at this time, but we move. I'm currently speaking into a T-Bone SC400 plugged into a second-hand UMC 202HD, and the combined cost of my audio setup is just over £100. I'm recording at 48kHz and 24-bit into Vegas Pro 19 with an EQ, 2 compressors, and a limiter applied to my track. My first question is, how do I sound? Now to my main question. I have a friend who wants to start live streaming when he builds his first gaming PC, and I made him a streaming guide to help him get started. Among other things, I mentioned that he already has the blue Snowball, which he has been using for about a decade, but I suggested the AT2035 along with the UMC22 as an initial upgrade. Is this a good recommendation for a beginner streamer? I also mentioned the OC18 and the ID4 Mark II as potential future upgrades. Do you agree with this recommendation as well? Thank you for answering my question.